February, and I want our February to be fruitful. You might have wondered why I put this up here on the front. Well, it's to remind you that in the month of February, I want you and us as a church to be full of fruitfulness. Full of fruitfulness. In the Bible, fruit is often referred to as the product of our faith. You know, we don't have a Christian faith so that we can just come to somewhere on Sunday. So that we can just do nice things with each other throughout the week. So that we can just get to heaven. But the Bible teaches us that as Christians, we are to be fruitful in our walk with Him. And the good news is this, that you can be fruitful in February. Time's ticking, I know, we're already through it. But the bad news is that if you want to be fruitful in February, you probably had to do some things in your life and in your heart and in your soul over the last 12 months. Because if any of you are gardeners here, if any of you every now and again go out and do something in the garden, you know that if you want to see a plant in the summertime, you've got to nurture it through the spring. If you go out and you want to grow something in your garden, in your house, some flowers or some tomatoes, or you can tell I'm not a gardener because I don't know what else you might grow. But if you want to go out and grow something, you've got to do something about it in advance and ahead of time. You see this fruit that is lovely here. Doesn't it look good? Doesn't it make you hungry? Doesn't it make you want something to eat? I know. It does, doesn't it? But I'm too tight to give it away. Some people thought I was going to give it to you, but I'm too tight. I'm not doing that. Sorry. Oh, that's generous. I'm also an accountant, so there you go. So you're not getting it. But the fruit that we've got here took a long time to get here. It went through a season of being planted. It went through a season of nourishment. It went through a season of being fed and being watered. It went through a season of being pruned back, a season of ripening before it was picked, transported and landed up here in Brecon Elim Church in February 2023. It took time. And if we want to get fruit in our spiritual lives, if we want to be fruitful for the kingdom of God in February, we should have started doing something last summer. We should have planted something last summer. We should have nourished it in September. We should have watered it in October. We should have pruned it in November. We should have waited for it to ripen in December. We should have protected it in January so it would be ready for us to have today. But I think we can still be fruitful. Even if we haven't gone through that process, I think in February we can be fruitful. Just like the farmers who planted this seed a long time ago, it took them a long time to get it here. In your life, you can bear fruit for God. Do you believe that? Do you want to do it? Good, good. God is wanting you to produce fruit. God said to Adam and Eve in Genesis 1:28, be fruitful and increase in number. In Romans 7:4, Paul said this, so my brothers and sisters, you also died to the law through the body of Christ, that you might belong to one another. To him who was raised from the dead, in order that you might bear fruit for God. I want to put a question up on the board. And it's a question that I want you to think about and ponder just for a moment. What fruit is presenting itself in your life right now? I'm not talking about the fruit in your garden. I'm not talking about the fruit that you're growing in a plant pot on your kitchen table. What fruit is showing in your life? Is it the fruit of worry? Is it the fruit of fear? Is it the fruit of doubt? Is it the fruit of anger? Is that what you're dealing with at the moment? Well, can I say, if you're dealing with that fruit at the moment, it's probably because over time, over the last 12 months, there have been things going on, things that you've had to deal with, things that you've had to address, that maybe haven't been addressed, and you're still producing that fruit. That's a fruit of a root that is something that is going on in your life or has been going on for some time. What fruit is presenting itself in your life right now? What you are reaping now is a direct consequence of what you have been sowing for the last 12 months. Oh, what you are reaping now is a result of what you've been watering. Some of you might have been watering seeds of fear in your life. And rather than dealing with it and addressing with it, you've just allowed fear to grow and grow. And now you're worried, and now it's having an effect on your body. Some of you might be dealing with the fruit of ill health. Can I say that ill health is something, a result of us not looking after our bodies? We've got to get real if we want to deal with some of the fruit that we're battling with in our life. Just some things that people deal with: anger, discontentment, impurity, hatred, discord. And do you know what I love to do about the fruit that's growing in my life? I don't know, you're probably not like me. I know you're probably more spiritual than me. But if I get fruit in my life and I think, well, that's not very healthy, that shouldn't be there, what's that growing? Where did that thought come from? Where did that worry come from? Where did that behaviour come from? Do you know what I like to turn to? The blame game. Anyone here like to say, well, I'm like that because my parents brought me up that way? Blame them, they're at the back. Blame them, blame them, blame them. I'm like that. If you knew what my children were like, you know why I have so many issues. Some of you were sitting there. If you, Rob, just knew what it was like at work, I would be so, you'd understand. Rob, that's why I've got all these issues. Work is just over and blah, 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 blah. Rob, do you know what the government did to me? They took away this, they did that. It's only their fault, nothing to do with me. Rob, do you know what the pastor said to me once? It's his fault I'm in a mess. It's his fault that no one likes me. It's his fault that I can't get my life together. He never preached on it. Blame, blame, blame. But can I say, stop blaming other people for the fruit in your life if it's unhealthy fruit. Take responsibility for it. Don't blame your employer. I could have added that to the list. Rob, it's my boss's fault. Treats me rubbish. Rob, it's my boss. Oh, you should see the people I've got to work with. They're just terrible. I've got to put up with them. That's why I'm grumpy. That's why I've got an attitude problem. That's why I can't sleep and I'm rough. Anyone here get like that? Fruit, don't blame it. I want to say this. We need to be people of the hard, be careful. I'm going to caveat this in a minute. We need to be people of the hard right. I'm not making a political statement when I say that, okay? I'm not talking about your political leanings of left, right, centre, whatever. But I'm talking about we need to be a people who will make the hard, right decisions to deal with the fruit in our life, rather than the easy, wrong decisions. Let me say that again. We need to be people who make the hard, right decisions, rather than the easy, wrong decisions. How easy is it for us, rather than to have that conversation, rather than confront that behaviour, rather than forgive that person, we take the easy way out and we just make the wrong decision, we hold on to hurt. Instead of taking the hard decision that is the right way to forgive and let go and not get offended and grow some good fruit. But so often what do? We take the easy, wrong decision. Some of us, if we want better fruit in our life, we need to make the hard, right decision. That sometimes comes down to some disciplines that we need to get into our life. Some of us, we just need to be more organised, and we need to have a healthier life. Hard right rather than an easy wrong. But the main sort of verse about fruit, and this is, I suppose, where I'm going over the month of February, comes from Galatians chapter 5, verse 19. It says this: the acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred and discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions and envy, drunkenness, orgies and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. But here we go. Here we go. Here we go. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking, and envying each other. Paul was making it clear to the Galatians that there is a battle going on. There's a battle between your old self and your new self. Your old self loves it for you to produce the fruit of the enemy. The fruit, and some of those things were mentioned: hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage. The enemy would love for you to stay in that sense of that old person who you were before you became a Christian. The person who just flies off the handle anytime anything bad happens. The person whose language, when they're not happy, just turns foul. The person who doesn't live undisciplined. The person who gets jealous. The person who's envious. The person who gets drunk. I warn you, as I did, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. But Paul then encourages them to pursue something else, to pursue some fruit, to pursue some goodness and godliness in their lives. And that's what he gives us. It's the battle where the old self wants to produce sin and the new wants to produce the fruits of the Spirit. And did you notice what Paul put in there? Just for anyone who thinks they got off the hook. When we went through those lists, some of the things that were mentioned, he also adds in, where is it? And the like. So if you think, oh, well, Rob, I'm not a drunk. Oh, Rob, I'm not really jealous of anyone. Oh, Rob, I don't really get involved in that sort of thing. I keep myself to myself, whatever. Paul then just puts in, and the like. So if you think you got away with it, folks, you didn't. You didn't. Anything that produces sin in your life, anything that is the old you, anything that takes you back into behaviors and patterns that is not from God, and the like, stay away from it. I've got down here some important characteristics of fruit. First thing is this: fruit isn't achieved by working, but it's birthed by abiding. A seed, when it's placed into the ground, does not have to work at producing fruit. But the gardener or the farmer protects the seed, plants it, looks after it, nourishes it, feeds it, waters it until it grows into something strong. The seed itself doesn't have to do anything. It just has to be a seed and abide in the soil. There's a passage in the Bible in John 15. If you remain in the vine, talking about remaining in the vine, abiding in God. And when we abide in God, folks, we produce fruit. When we stay close to God, we produce fruit. When we stay close in worship to God, the fruit that Paul was talking about there starts to grow as a natural byproduct of it. Fruit isn't achieved by working, but it's birthed by abiding. John 15:9, there it is. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. Some people, folks, think, well, now they're a Christian, or when they become a Christian, great, go away. Don't need church anymore. Don't need to read the Bible anymore. Don't need to pray. Don't need to spend time with God. But actually the opposite is true, folks. We need to do all those things because God, it's in those things that we start to produce fruit. It's in those things of spending time alone with God. The Bible calls it abiding, talk about remaining as well. But abiding in the presence of God is like that seed being in the soil. It's like the seed being watered. It's like the seed being fed. It's like the seed when we're in God's presence, when we're in an atmosphere like this, when we're spending time with each other, when we're lifting one another up. The seed and the fruit of our life is just being grown and grown and grown. It's birthed by abiding. But also something else about fruit is this. Fruit is fragile. You know, any of the fruit that I could take out here wouldn't stand much of a test if I squeezed it, chopped it, or threw it around the place. It would break up pretty fast. Do you want to try it? No, I call a food fight. We're too mature for that. But fruit is fragile. And the fruit of the Spirit that God wants to birth in your life over the next days, weeks, and months is fragile fruit. Do you know how easily something can be taken away from you just like that? Joy can be popped like a balloon going over the skies of America. Just like that. A fruit can be destroyed just like that. A grape can be crushed. A tangerine can be squashed. It's fragile, can be pierced. And the fruit that can take a long time for you to develop in your life, whether it's the peace of God, whether it's joy, whether it's self-control, in an instant can be broken by something that the enemy would love to come along and just destroy what God has done in your life. I remember someone said this: don't make a permanent decision on temporary emotions. Don't make a permanent decision on temporary emotions. Sometimes we go through life and something hits us from the blind side. We've been going all right for a long time. And, you know, we've developed some of this fruit that we're talking about in our spiritual life and our walk with God. But then something blindsides us and all of a sudden we've lost our joy. All of a sudden the pandemic comes along and we've lost our peace. All of a sudden we've lost our joy, lost our job, and we don't know where we are, where we stand in the Lord. We don't know what the future holds. Our fruit of the Spirit is fragile, and the enemy could take it just like that. Ask David, whose life and family experience and reign as the king was forever affected by what he did with Bathsheba. Ask Samson, who when he, in one moment of weakness, gave his strength away to Delilah, and he was completely lost of all power. In one moment, fragile fruit taken away. And no, we're not going to sing Delilah. Oh, I get in trouble. Third thing, fruit reproduces itself. Fruit contains seed for another plant. You plant the seed of a fruit in the ground and it will grow again. It will grow up to be strong. A pomegranate seed, I didn't know this, a pomegranate seed can hold up to 1,400 seeds in itself. Incredible. Fruit has the ability to reproduce. And as you begin to produce fruit in one area of your life, maybe you're just working on holding back your tongue. Maybe you're just working on a little bit of self-control. Maybe you're looking at just trying to be a bit more disciplined and a little bit more patient with your family. It's not just me who needs patience with his family. But maybe you're just working on something. Do you know, it's amazing as you start to grow fruit in one area of your life, fruit in other areas starts to grow as well. There's a gentleman by the name of Craig Rochelle. He pastors a church in America, a large church, and he's a guy who is into his disciplines. And he tells a story of how he was so indisciplined in his life. So indisciplined, you know, that his work life was all over the place. He would come and go. He'd do this and that. He had no really structure to his days, his weeks, his months. And he just realized he had to do something about it. And he did something. He started developing one single habit. And it was the habit of flossing his teeth. You think, well, what on earth has that got to do with anything. He tells a story that when he flosses his teeth, he tells himself that he's a disciplined person. He's doing something that he doesn't enjoy. But he said that habit has started off habit after habit after habit. And because he flosses when he doesn't feel like it, he then wants to do other things. That means he's a disciplined person. He wants to eat right. He wants to read his Bible. He wants to get to work early. He wants to finish it on time so he can do other things. But that one habit that you get into can birth so much other fruit. That one thing, and I want to encourage you this month, just go for bearing one fruit for God. Some of you need to be more patient. Some of you need to have more joy in your life. Some of you need to be more gentle in spirit. Some of you need to have self-discipline. Some of you just need to be kind. I was going this week as I started getting ready for this. I was on my way to town and I was meeting someone here at the church. And a guy was walking from Brecon back out to his home. And I put this thing together, and I can remember going through it, Galatians 5:19, fruit of spirit, love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, got my sermon sorted, thank you very much. And I saw this guy going, as I was in my car, he was walking from town out towards where we lived. And he obviously, I don't know, maybe the car broken down or something like that. And I went past him, I thought, oh, I know who that is, that's so-and-so. I went on, I thought, Robert, you got a message on Sunday about kindness and goodness. Is it just going to be a sermon, or can you do something practical? And I thought, stop my car, turn back around. I said, said his name. And I thought he was probably going to say, oh no, I want the fresh air. He thought, oh, no problem, I can go. Yeah, no. I stopped the car. Oh yeah, that would be great, thanks very much. He got in. We just had a chat in the car. I've spoken to him for years, but see him every now and again. He asked how life's going. I asked him how life's going. It was just an opportunity to be kind. Opportunity to be kind. And do you know what? In our lives this month, look for opportunities where you can be fruitful. Look for opportunities where you can do things out of the ordinary for people. Look for opportunities where you can be patient with your family. Look for opportunities where you can have self-control, whereas in the past you might have flown off the handle. Look for it. It's amazing how things will start to change. Fruit reproduces itself. Now, next thing, fruit we're getting here, don't worry. Fruit is attractive. Doesn't it look good? Doesn't it make you want to take a bite and peel it? Well, tough, you can't. Go get your own. Sorry, I've got to be patient and kind. Help me, Lord. So, you know what? The fruit that you bear as a Christian should be so attractive to other people. There should be something in you that when you're developing this fruit of kindness, of generosity, of self-control, of goodness, of patience, that people get around you and think, when he's around, it's so great. He makes a difference in the workplace. When he's at this event, when he shows up in the office, there's a different atmosphere about the office. When he comes into my home, it produces a different kind of atmosphere that I just want to be around him. It rubs off on other people. And the fruit that we bear for God should be attractive. You should be so kind that people want to hang around you. You should be so patient that people would love to employ you. You should be so good that people want to have you as their friend. You should be so good as well, and so patient that when trouble comes along, people want you in on it as well. When they're going through situations that they don't know how to go through, that they're calling you up, they're ringing you up, because you can understand. You can be kind. You can understand what they're going through. Fifth thing as well, fruit, it also nourishes. Fruit nourishes. Let me tell you this, I just got some facts about fruit. The doctor will tell you the same about it. They can lower your blood pressure. Isn't that good? They can reduce the risk of heart disease. Woo! Praise the Lord. They can improve blood sugar levels. Great. Hey, I like this one. They can promote weight loss. Fruits, it nourishes. It nourishes. It's good for your soul. And when we start developing these things, folks, it nourishes So we need to be a people that nourish the environment that we're in. Your workplace, your family life, even our church. Do you know what? When you come into church, I hope you nourish those around you. I hope you come in and when someone sees you, they're so glad to see you. You add to the atmosphere that's taking place. You add to the sense of God's presence being here with us. Let me finish up with this. Matthew 21. Let me just read this to you. Matthew 21, verse 18. Jesus tells his disciples, it's a story, well, it's not a story, but it's something that Jesus goes through. And it's a warning for us all here this morning. Early in the morning, as Jesus was on his way back to the city, he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it, but found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, "May you never bear fruit again." Immediately the tree withered. Immediately the tree withered. The fig tree that was meant to be bearing fruit, it just bore leaves. It just had to show, it just had the pretense of bearing fruit. And in some ways you could compare that to our Christian lives, our spiritual experiences. Are we people who really bear fruit for God? Or are we people that just give the impression of bearing fruit? Are we just Christians who come to church on a Sunday and think, well, I'm going to heaven, thank you very much, see you when I get there, everyone else? Or are we going to be people who nourish the seed of our lives? Who spend time in God's presence? Who build ourselves up in God's word? So that the fruit that God wants to bear in us can come alive and be a blessing to those around us. In Jesus' name, amen.